Hello fellow self-reliant folks. Today we're going to be making red clover lemonade. First thing I'm going to address is the bubbly noise you hear in the background is my red clover, a combination of freshly picked, some that was picked yesterday and frozen, and dried red clover. And it has to boil for 5 minutes. So I already had that process going before we started here because I didn't think you'd want to stand and watch a pot boil for 5 minutes. And a watch pot never boils, right? So I didn't want to have that problem. First, we're going to address one thing about red clover, so you know exactly what plant we are using. Super easy to identify. Great for novice foragers. I don't know why it's called red clover. If you're asking that, you want to ask that in the comments, or you have an answer, that is great. I would welcome it. When I first started foraging it, I thought, well, is this some variety we don't grow in my little slice of heaven corner of Appalachia? We have white clover, we have purple clover. And I was looking it up and reading and trying to learn to make sure I was foraging the right thing. And you type in red clover and you look around and there's all this great information about this wonderful natural healing so-called weed. And every picture in the red clover is our purple clover. All I'm guessing is a man named it, because most men have no nuance for color. Sometimes it can look a little pink, but other than that, it's purple. I don't see how it can be even deemed red. It's like that internet thing from several years ago where you had to look at a dress and decide what color it was. If you think it's red, I'd be curious to know how many people actually thought that. But when you get your clover, whether it's fresh or you're pulling out some that you've dried, you need to cut away or pull away the leaves and the stem. The easiest way to do this is just take your pair of kitchen scissors and snip. But if you don't have scissors, you're in a survival situation, you're just out in the woods and want a snack, you're going to make some off-the-grid type of tincture or poultice or tea or lemonade like we're making, just take the leaves and stem and pull them up tall. Put your fingernail, I used to have nice nails before I was a homesteader, and you put your finger right where the stem meets the flower head, give it a little pinch. They are removed easily. I'm going to rinse these under water real quick. You always want to rinse them. Some people who use the dried heads have washed them and let them dry, and they pull them out and they're nice and clean. Some people dry them straight from the earth, afraid that the extra exposure to the water could limit its ability to dry properly without molding. So it's up to you when you decide to dry them, or wash them rather, but you definitely need to wash them. So I'm going to wait for that to finish boiling, and I'm going to take my little pot here. I don't have a pitcher that's handy to sit my strainer in, so I'm going to put my strainer down in that pot. Pretty sure this is going to work. And I'm going to strain away the juice that I have boiled out of the red clover. You'll see what you can maybe refer to as tannins. I'm not sure the exact word. If you've ever worked with walnuts or acorns, it kind of looks the same in color. And we're going to strain that through here. And I call clover a one-time use type of a flower or a weed. If you had to use it a second time, you could, but I think you would be really reducing its medicinal or nutrient benefit. It's high in niacin and calcium and potassium, vitamin C, several other essential nutrients. So it's great to add to your survival diet or just a wild forage salad. So I'm going to put on my brand new from the Dollar Tree oven mitts and get my pot off of the stove. Give you a look at what it looks like here. It's steamy, so hopefully it doesn't mess up the screen too much. You can see the clovers are pretty well soaked out of every last bit of color. And we're going to pour the very hot liquid in through the strainer. It kind of looks like a tea or a coffee. The way you make the lemonade is very similar to how you make the tea. You can make the lemonade or tea just because it tastes good, and you can grow, raise, forage your own food for its nutrient value and for medicinal purposes. Clover are a natural anti-inflammatory. I'm going to mush it around with my spoon now, get every last bit of juice out of it. They are a natural anti-inflammatory, so they're great for gout and arthritis. I'm going to preface this, if you've never seen any of my other videos or read my articles, I am not a medical professional of any type, novice herbalist and wildcrafter, just sharing information that I have learned that works for me and my tribe, and through research. Even if something natural, wild, and seemingly safe. It does not mean that you won't have an allergic reaction to it. The only real concern, and it's okay to give this to children, which isn't always the case with different wild things that you find or essential oils. It's great for a fever reducer, besides its anti-inflammatory properties. And it's great to make a salve with for dry skin and for acne issues. It has a little bit of drawing power to it. You can whip it up into the salve recipe can be adapted quite easily into a chapstick. But the only concern, for humans at least, horses eat too much is they can get gout, have severe liver issues, and die. But for humans, the only thing you need to worry about is if you have a blood clotting issue or on blood thinners, are going to have surgery within 2 weeks. It's not recommended you consume clover like a lot of other different medicinal plants or weeds, because it can cause issues with your blood clotting. Let's take another look at this now that it has a white background. I still see a little goo in it, so I may strain it a second time. The goo are just some leaf particles, and that's not going to hurt anything. Now, all those warnings that say don't take anything that might have blood thinning properties within 2 weeks of surgery are all well and good. You need to let this cool for about a minute before I add in the other ingredients. But nobody knows when they're going to have an emergency surgery. And I've had friends laugh at me when I've said, hey, I ate or drank whatever. I mean, red clover is not the only thing you can consume or even have it topically infiltrate your body that can have blood thinning issues. Because if you have an accident of any type and you may be unconscious or not just complete with all your mental capacities, you're not going to be able to tell the well-meaning, still in training, could be a wonderful doctor one day, 12-year-old looking person at the ER, that you just had red clover tea this morning, to let them know that you could have an issue with blood clotting. And so I always make sure somebody knows when I've had something like that, or my loved ones have too. I make sure that they tell somebody, or that we all know. And maybe you think that's overkill, but it's just something I feel important, that you don't going to have an emergency surgery and your blood's not clotting. And I don't just say, hey, I had red clover. I specifically say that it can cause blood clotting issues. Do not expect that young, well-meaning doctor, or even an older established one, to have any concept of what you mean when you say you've had red clover lemonade or tea or whatever else, because they may not know that that could cause blood thinning. Okay, so I boiled my cup of mixture of 1 cup of combination of fresh and dried clover. Some people don't mix them. They give 1 cup of dried or 3 cups of fresh mix. The density doesn't change much. It's the way they pack into your measuring cup. So I've tried it being very specific with just the dried or just the fresh. And when I've been scrambling against the goats and the horses to pick enough clover on our survival homestead, I might not always have enough, or want to run completely out of my dried stockpile. So I've mixed them often. I've never had a problem. So I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of lemon juice and just a smidge more, anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup. If you're making a batch, let's use 3 cups of water. You can use it to taste also. You can use more or less. And so you can see that's lightened up the collar a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and stir. And now I'm going to take my pot back off the stove, as I see probably about a dozen fairly decent sized leaf particles in there, and I'm not particularly worried about having leaves. It's like you get a little bit of the tea out of your tea bag into your tea. But just to not cause anybody to have a bad first experience when they taste this or choke on it, I'm going to go ahead and rid that of any little leaves in there. I know it was extremely well cleaned. I was extra special careful because our youngest grandchildren are going to be the taste testers on this. And I want to make sure everything was nice and clean, which is somewhat laughable because when we go on hikes and do forest school, they pick wild berries, and I'm sure they get not 100% clean when they're eating their wild berries. But I'm just going to go ahead and give it another strain to get out any of the extra particles as much as possible. I'm just using a regular kitchen strainer. Ideally, you'd use a fine mesh strainer. I'm hoping to just be able to catch some here with my spoon. I don't want to lose any of my liquid. And some of those are even flour particles, and it's okay. It's not going to cause any real problem, but you still want to get out as much of the natural matter as possible. You don't want to store something. If you're going to freeze this or even dehydrate it or anything along that line, that you have the natural matter still in there, it can cause it to mold and mildew much more quickly. Now that I'm more comfortable with the amount of debris that I got out, I shouldn't say debris, the leaves, the flowers, I'm going to go ahead and put in my honey. If you're using 3 cups of water and a 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of lemon juice, I recommend using about 7 to 8 tablespoons of honey. But again, this is an approximate. You can use more or less depending on what you have on hand, personal preference of taste, and also what type of an issue you are treating. If you're using this and you're concerned about using it as a natural cold and flu remedy to help get rid of fever and other types of symptoms that are often associated with cold and flu, honey has a lot of medicinal properties. I'm using locally raised raw honey, which has much more of a medicinal benefit and much more helpful if you're dealing with allergies too, if it's raised in your local environment. If you're going to use this lemonade, as I'm calling it, for gout or arthritis, I don't know how much more beneficial the honey is going to be to that. It may be somewhat. Honey has all kinds of amazing properties, but it definitely makes it taste good. Honey has a sweet taste. That's why horses love it. And when it first comes up in the spring, when they're out and about, being turned out in their pastures, they tend to gorge on it, which can cause problems. They surely can eat it in moderation. They just can't consume a whole lot of it all at once. Okay, now once I get 2 more of these spoonfuls in here, I'm going to give it a stir and make sure everything's thoroughly combined. And you could drink this hot like a tea, but it's really intended to be served chilled, like a lemonade or an iced tea. So I'm going to put this in my refrigerator for a bit and let it get nice and cold, and then I'm going to serve it on chipped ice to our 3 youngest grandchildren. And they have never tasted this before, so you will get an honest reaction for the taste test. You can see the honey kind of piles up in your pot, even though the pot's still warm. And you want to make sure it's thoroughly combined and doesn't get left on the bottom. So I'm going to give it some stirs here, and I'm going to chill it. And while I chill it, I'm going to work on making a healing red clover tea. And when you get it back out of the refrigerator after it's been chilled, you need to go ahead and do some more stirring, because the honey, no matter how well you think you mix it in, being heavier than the liquids, can also settle back down to the bottom. So I'm going to put this, see it's stirred up and now it's kind of sliding down in. I may scoop out a little bit more flowers as I go. There's still some flower heads in there. But I'm going to put that in the refrigerator and I'm going to let it chill. And then we will do the taste test here shortly. And once you make yours, you do a taste test. I would love to hear what you think in the comments. You can't share pictures or videos here, but you surely are welcomed and encouraged to do that on our social media pages. Show us how yours turned out. If you need any troubleshooting help, show your own taste test or your twist that you might have added different things to yours. You can put some calendula in it, some echinacea, other kinds of healing flowers and herbs you can strain in along with the clover. So share your recipes and experiences with us.